a certain sense of remorse. Let me explain. I'm excited that you're here. I'm remorseful that we have often preached to the choir. Because the people who are not here are the ones specifically that I want you to go out, contact, address, and serve you, the ones of whom benefit the most. So this is about informing you so that you can go and spread the word to those who are not here. So you have a challenge, and I unction you for that commitment that you will take what you hear and you will tell at least 3 other people. You will not be passive, but you will be vigilant. You will not say, maybe another day, you will make it 2 days. And that's each and every day. So we have a commitment to each other, and we have a pledge. And with that, we can change what we're here to do. And that is to stop the violence and end the silence. Each of us knows someone. Each of us have contact with many. And that's enough to make a change. It starts with one. And that's all it is. So let me, if I may, introduce myself. I am Professor Adams. I am the faculty advisor of our Human Services Club. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Forum on Domestic Violence. It is an annual forum, of which I hope you will come back and bring someone else the next time, as well as invite others who are certainly going to hear about it as well later. Also, if I may introduce the other faculty advisor that we have for our sponsoring club, and that's Club LEAD. LEAD stands for Ladies Empowered and Determined. Isn't that a strong title? There's absolutely no weakness, no learned helplessness, no sense of acquiescence or otherwise any sense of why me. We need to be and certainly understand that it is not just a word, it's a lifestyle. Ladies Empowered and Determined. So we have Professor Christy Deep. There you go. Wave them. We have our hands full of human services, women's issues. You'll find a distinct overlap between the two. They're commonly bonded in the struggle to make change, to make it now. And we're committed to do that. So I want to applaud you for your attendance. I want to thank you for taking and setting aside the time, bringing your family, friends, loved ones, significant others, domestic partners, and those intended. In other words, you're going to join as teammates, co-partners, co-workers in this particular struggle. If you're here and you don't know why, it's a good reason. Somebody felt you should come. So we have an itinerary which would basically allow you to have questions answered. So I want you to know that you will be able to interact and certainly get questions answered. That is the biggest part of information. It's personalizing it, so please do be prepared. We want you to be able to get your question answered and not to leave today without having a specific answer to any and all questions you have. What I'd like to do first is, if any of our administrative staff here recognize them, I don't see our administrative staff, so we may have some come in, and I will certainly acknowledge them before the end of the forum. I would like to, again, I would have several people from the community. Should be, and so we'll have information from the Orange County Register, which is how some of you were able to hear. And I appreciate the Orange County Register's information and letting the community know. We have other agencies as well as our guest speakers agency, community service program. She's only been my speaker for, we'll just say 10 years plus. Community service program. And I want to recognize Don Ford because as an advocate for rape crisis, victim assistance, That's a very large agency. It's the largest nonprofit. Your state certification in victim witness advocacy, rape crisis training. So you have resources, and I want you to be able to recognize this space. So God, if you would just stand, let them know what you look like under the photograph. She's a bit unsung because, again, you aren't always aware until you have yourself in dire straits, but she's also a state advocate for the legislature in California for youth victims and victims' families, and always strengthening the assistance for local, private, as well as state funds, and changing laws that give us a support system in spite of having lack of funds, as we always hear in the state budget. So she's in the trenches for us, and I want to make sure that you understand and realize that you're never alone, but more importantly, there's always someone behind the scenes working for you. We also are, I'd say, blessed and certainly pleased that we have Brother Diaz from Orange County Human Options, and it's an agency that's dedicated to end not only domestic violence, but also any form of abuse that anyone might experience. We're here today to talk about domestic violence, but I do not want you to be remiss in thinking that it's just domestic violence. You know, if you're not aware, you know, we have verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, and all kinds of bullying, including texting, harassment, and of course hate crimes, which we had from last semester, as well as intimidation or terrorism types of threats. It's unfortunate that we have to have forums to educate because it means that there's an actual presence of a problem. But it is, again, my pleasure to have Brother Diaz from Human Options. If you would, thank him for the nice. He doesn't actually require that, but I want you to do it now, because after you get the information, I want you to be provoked, I want you to be shocked, I want you to be informed, and more importantly, I want you to find that you have now a sense of urgency. So it will not be a time for applause as much as it will be a time for action. And so that's why I'm recognizing, because afterwards the burden's on you to go out and do something with this information. If I may have the club president, Vanessa.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. How y'all doing? Good. Fantastic. My name is Robert Diaz, and thank you guys for coming out on an afternoon like this. I wish it was under better circumstances, but as Professor Adams says, for every tragedy, there is an opportunity. And this is your opportunity to become educated and also to tell your story. Because I work for an agency called Human Options. Has anyone here ever heard of Human Options before? Oh, that's horrible. Okay. So Human Options is an agency based out of Irvine, and we are actually a domestic violence shelter. We're an agency that fights to prevent domestic violence. And what our shelter is, it's a big apartment complex for people who leave abusive relationships. We offer counseling, therapy, legal services, personal empowerment programs, and I'm a community educator. I go out and I talk about this issue. And I spend most of my time in college campuses, like Cypress College, high school campuses, talking about teen dating abuse, which is a precursor to domestic violence. But before we jump into all that, whenever you heard that phrase, domestic violence, what are the first kind of thoughts or images that pop up into your head? What are the first things that you see or think about when you hear the phrase domestic violence? Yes, sir?
A man beating his wife.
A man beating his wife, yes.
I was just thinking,
Just hitting, right? Definitely. Anything else?
Nicole Simpson.
Nicole Brown Simpson. See, I like coming to colleges because you all are far more articulate than I am. Because when I first think of domestic violence, the first thing that used to pop into my head was the television show Cops. You ever seen the show Cops? Yeah. I always have that image of a big beer belly guy, right? And he's got an interesting shirt on. What's the name of the shirt that he has on?
White beater.
White beater. Kind of a weird name for a shirt, right? And then next to him, there's a woman, presumably his wife, and she looks like she's been beaten. She has a bloody nose or a black eye. The cop walks up to the woman and says, "Excuse me, miss, what's going on over here?" And what does the woman usually respond with, Michelle?
Nothing.
I fell down. Who called you? Why are you even here? That's the image that I used to have when I thought of domestic violence. And I know why I had that image, because when I was younger, I used to watch the show Cops. Every Saturday night at 8 p.m. right before America's Most Wanted. Don't ask me why, you know that, but that's what I used to do, right? But domestic violence is not just physical abuse. It's any abuse between two people who share an intimate relationship. Do you have to be married to be a victim? Do you have to have kids? No, you could be close friends that share an intimate relationship and one that ends up being abusive. But to be honest with you, most of us, we think it's physical abuse, right? Punching, kicking, or slapping. That's a type of abuse. It's not the most common type, but when we talk about physical abuse, what do you think is the most dangerous room in a household for a couple living together? Why the kitchen of all places? There's tons of weapons. Knives, pots, pans, fire from the stove. In fact, in our shelter tonight, it's kind of sad. We have a young lady. She's 21 years old. She's in our shelter because her husband forced her head inside of an oven that had an oven. And she has third-degree burn marks up and down her neck and cheek. She's had 7 different surgeries to try and correct it, and it hasn't really helped. And you're absolutely right, the kitchen is a very dangerous place. But up on the board, I put the 5 total types of abuse. And I always put the 5 total types of abuse because most of us, we think it's just physical. There's verbal abuse. Any derogatory statement that's made. You're so dumb, you're such an idiot, you can't do anything right. So if verbal abuse are the words that we use, what would emotional abuse be in a relationship?
Go back to your ex.
I'm sorry, go back to my...
Go back to your ex.
Oh, going back to your ex. Okay, that could be a form. I thought you were directly talking to me. I was like, wow. Already handling, right? Okay, going back to your ex. Yeah. See, now, what you have to know is domestic violence, it's on a spectrum. And the easiest way to show this spectrum is usually through emotional abuse. Because there are levels, right? There's lower end level emotional abuse that I bet every single one of you have done in the past. Yep. You're on the phone with your boyfriend or girlfriend, you get kind of annoyed with them, you don't really want to talk to them. But instead of saying, hey sweetie, I gotta go, what do? Click, we hang up the phone. The person calls back. Why did you hang up on me? Click, we do it again. Because we're pushing that person's buttons, right? That's a form of emotional abuse. That may not hurt somebody, besides maybe some of their feelings or maybe getting them aggressive. But the other side of emotional abuse could be like cheating or infidelity. And in our shelter, we have heard victims who will tell us stories about their abusers. Who will say things like, my abuser purposely hid the car keys underneath the couch cushion. And then when I went to go ask, sweetie, have you seen my car keys? The abuser will then say, are you that stupid that you can't even find your own car keys? Making that person feel like they're going crazy, right? That's the spectrum of emotional abuse. Sexual abuse is any forced sexual act. So is it considered rape if a husband forces his wife to have sex with him?
Yes.
Even if they're married?
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's really important to know when you're dealing with people who come from different countries or different cultures. They may not view that as rape, but here in the United States it is. And usually the most difficult is financial or economic abuse. What do you think financial or economic abuse is in a relationship?
Withholding money.
Withholding money. Taking control of all of the money. So for example, if I was financially abusive, I may force my wife to stay at home where she's not allowed to work. Why would I do that? Wouldn't I want her to work and make more money? What do I gain by forcing her to stay at home? Power and control. That's what these relationships are all about. What we do at Human Options is we go out and we tell stories. Because every single one of you here knows somebody who's involved in one of these relationships. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be somebody that you just met in class. And I'm going to tell you guys a story as well. It's a true story that happened at a college just like Cypress College. For some of you, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be difficult to hear this story. Because you may have known somebody who's been in these relationships. But I want you to do me a huge favor. I want all of you to focus on the types of abuse that you see in this story and the warning signs that could have prevented this from happening. And then at the end, I'll share a very personal story with my family, okay? So the main character in this story, his name is Jason. He's a college sophomore. He's on the basketball team. He's a pretty popular guy. He's got a lot of close friends, and he's got a girlfriend named Kelly. She's a year younger. She's a freshman. And they've been dating for about 3 years now. Now, when they first started dating, things were amazing. I mean, Jason was the kind of guy that would get all nervous whenever Kelly walked around. He'd put his hands in his pocket, and his heart would begin to race. But he finally got the courage to ask Kelly out on a date, and Kelly said yes. Jason and Kelly went on 3 different dates, and after that 3rd date, Jason knew that he was in love. He wanted to prove that he was in love with her. So he set up a nice romantic restaurant date with a candle on the table. He bought her a gift and put the gift underneath the table because it was a surprise. Kelly came into the restaurant looking amazing, and Jason decided to tell her exactly how he felt. Kelly, look, I just want you to know that I think you're the most beautiful girl in the entire school. I mean, you're so easy to talk to. I love your smile. Look, I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but I want you to know that I love you, baby. I bought you this gift. He opened up a box, and there was a beautiful necklace inside. Now, as Kelly's looking at the necklace, she starts thinking to herself, damn, you love me after 3 days? That's a really nice necklace, though. I love you too. She put on the necklace, and things were bright. I mean, this is the type of couple that when they're at school, they're holding hands at all times. They're making out at all times. This is the type of couple that whenever they have to go to different classes and separate, it's like, I'll see you in 57 minutes, my love. Jason's the type of boyfriend who loves to buy gifts. He buys flowers, chocolates, stuffed animals, balloons, anything to prove that he's a good boyfriend. Now, this happened a few years ago before everyone had cell phones. Kelly didn't have one yet. So Jason decided to buy her one of those pink razors. Y'all remember the pink razors? Oh, yeah. He brought it to school. Guess what, babe? I got that cell phone. He went, oh my God, Jason, I love you so much. He says, don't even worry about it, babe. I'm going to pay for it. He says, look, sweetie, you're going over the minutes, and I can't afford it, so this is what we're going to do. During the week, I only want you calling me and your family. I don't really want you talking to your friends. But don't worry, baby, on nights and weekends when it's free, you can call whoever you want. Just don't go over the minutes. Well, Kelly didn't like that. That he was putting rules on her cell phone. But then she started thinking, like I said, Jason's going to pay for my bill. I should deal with his rules. Now, as we already said before, whenever there's abuse in a relationship, it's all about what? Power and control. And the easiest way to maintain power and control in a relationship is through isolation. What does isolation mean in terms of a relationship? Or what does it mean if you feel isolated in your relationship? Yeah, alone. Or separated from who? Friends and family. Oh my God. And when we say it like that, it sounds crazy, right? Like we would never allow that to happen to us. But I'll give you an example. By a show of hands, how many of you here have ever had a best friend or really close friend where you're always hanging out with that person, but the minute they get into a new relationship, they stop hanging out with you? I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I used to call my buddy Whips when I was in high school, right? Because it's easy for us to fall into that trap. If we really like or love somebody, we naturally want to spend all of our time with them. But if there's abuse in that relationship, then that same isolation will turn into extreme jealousy and possessiveness. And we all know people who are like that, right? Yes. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you here have cell phones? Oh, pretty stupid push. Okay. I'll tell you guys how cool I was in college. I was so cool in college, I used to have this thing called a pager. Remember pagers? Pagers were, some of you guys are like, what? Pagers were cool back in the day, right? But nowadays, we are really connected to friends and family through our cell phones. Your cell phones alone have missed phone calls, voicemails, text messages, internet access. We even have cameras on our phones. We know what everyone is doing at all times. But can they be used abusively in relationships? Yes. Definitely. I was doing this same presentation at Cal State Fullerton in a big lecture hall with about 300 students. And after the presentation, this young man, he wanted to come down and talk to me, and he looked really upset. He was a big dude, like 6'4", 245 pounds. He's at the top of the lecture hall. He's like, hey, Robert. Robert, can I talk to you for a second? I'm like, yeah, man, have a seat right over there. I like what you said about cell phones, man. My girlfriend, she's crazy. He opened up his cell phone, and in the hour-long presentation, this young man had 20 missed calls, 15 voicemails, and 10 text messages all from his phone. He called his voicemail and put it on speakerphone, and you could literally hear the tone of his girlfriend's voice change with each voicemail. The first one was really happy, like, hey, sweetie, it's me. I hope you're having a great day, but I really need to talk to you, okay? Please call me back. I love you, baby. Bye. Second voicemail. Sweetie, the second time I called. I really need to talk to you. It's really important. Please call me back. I love you, baby. Bye. But by the 15th voicemail, it was a little bit different. Where the hell are you? Why did I call you 15 different times before you pick up your phone? If you don't answer your phone in the next 5 minutes, you will be. He looked at me and he said, see. Now, I didn't know him, his girlfriend, or his relationship. I said, hey, man, maybe she got in a car accident. Maybe it's an emergency. You should call her back. No. She does this all the time. So he calls her back on speakerphone. Granted, it was very sarcastic. Hey, sweetie, after 20 missed calls, your 15 voicemails, and your 10 text messages, can you please tell me what was so important? And I swear to you, she said, sweetie, I just called you to say hi. All of that time and effort to find out where he was, what he was doing, and why he wasn't picking up the phone. Does that sound like a form of power and control? Yes. Just a little, right? And don't even get me started on the arguments that I hear couples have over Facebook. Have you heard couples argue over this? I guess I'm too old because I don't understand this. But apparently there's a new way to prove that you really love and trust your boyfriend or girlfriend. How do you do that on Facebook? What was that? Oh, is that where you make it Facebook official, right? And you put in a relationship with that person? Yeah. I've seen people who are dating for like a week and they're already married to that person on Facebook, right? But that's the easy one. If you really love and trust your boyfriend or girlfriend, the only way to prove it to them is by giving them the password to your account. And why is that? So now they can log on whenever they want and without your permission to find out all the conversations you've had, who you've been talking to and who's been talking to you.
Oh my God.
And if you don't give it to them, what does it look like? You're cheating or hiding something. And it's just your account, right? Definitely a form of power and control. Now we laugh at that Facebook option, but in reality, it gets even more serious. You can do it on online banking. Does anyone remember the term stalker? Stalker? Okay, see, stalker for me, when I was young, was the guy who was like on his bike and he was kind of creeping in your window and he looked at you. Now, I don't even have to leave my house. I know exactly where you are because you have to check in every time you're at somewhere on Facebook. I have your online access to your banking. I know what you're spending money on. You better answer my text messages because I know you have it. I can literally control you without ever leaving my bed. Kind of scary, right? Now when we go back to Jason and Kelly, Jason's on the basketball team, and after every basketball game, there's always a big party. And usually at these parties, there's alcohol involved. Now, do we as a group, do we believe that drugs and alcohol are the cause of violence?
No.
Absolutely not. But they do facilitate it. They can make it worse. But we get confused many times because abusers will use drugs or alcohol as an excuse. And we've heard these excuses before. Like, oh, you know I'm not normally like that. It's just because I was drunk last night. I mean, how many of you here have a friend, or in my case, most of my uncles, who the minute they start drinking, they want to fight everyone? You know people like that? Yes. See, but the alcohol doesn't make them fight, but the alcohol does cause them to make poor decisions. Jason's the same way. After the basketball game, he calls Kelly, "Sweetie, I'll pick you up in 15 minutes, please be ready." He runs downstairs to his mom's kitchen cabinet, grabs her bottle of vodka, and takes a couple sips. He fills an empty water bottle with vodka. He's going to take it with him in his car. He takes one last sip and he goes and picks up Kelly. But when Jason gets to Kelly's house, he does something really interesting. He never goes to the front door. He doesn't like talking to Kelly's parents. So he will sit in his car and honk his horn until Kelly's ready to come. Kelly comes running out of the house, opens up the door. "Hey, babe." Oh. "Jason, have you been drinking?" "Please tell me that you're not drinking and driving. Sweetie, if you're going to drink, let me drive your car, and that way you can do whatever it is that you want to go do." Jason turns around and says, "My God, woman, you've been in my car for 5 seconds and you're already nagging? Can you do me a favor and just shut your mouth for 5 minutes? I'll be the happiest man if you keep your mouth shut." Kelly didn't know what to do. She has never heard Jason talk like that before, so she stayed quiet. It took them 10 minutes to get to the party and nothing was said. Finally, Jason parked the car. He turned around. He said, "Look, sweetie, I'm sorry for yelling at you. I just don't like it when you accuse me of drinking and driving. Do you really think I'm that stupid that I would be drinking and driving?" "You're right, sweetie. Let's just go and have a good time." Kelly doesn't want to fight. She doesn't want to argue. They both go inside the party. They say hi to a couple friends, and after a few minutes, Jason gets bored. Him and his buddies go back to the car to take a couple shots. And as Kelly's alone, she decides to go say hi to some of her friends. She doesn't really hang out with her friends anymore. She only hangs out with Jason. She says hi to a couple girlfriends and she bumps into this guy named Mike. Now Mike and Kelly, they've been best friends since the first grade. They used to play t-ball together. They used to go to the same church group, but they don't really hang out too much anymore. Mike turns around and sees Kelly, gives her a big hug, and they start talking. And as Kelly's talking to Mike, all of a sudden his eyes get really, really wide. And Kelly feels somebody grabbing her shoulder, kind of hard and aggressive. The person spins her around and it's her boyfriend, Jason. "You little slut. I leave you alone for 5 minutes and you're with every other guy in this party? Did you think I wouldn't see you? I can't believe you're cheating on me at a party that I'm at." So he's like, "What are you talking about? It's Mike. You know him. I wasn't even doing anything." "I don't care who it is, and look at you. You're dressed like a slut. Sorry for calling you that. But the only reason why I get so jealous is because I love you so much. And I don't trust those other guys." He says, "You need to trust me, Jason, and if you ever call me that again, I swear you that it's over." So Jason spends the next 10 minutes begging Kelly to get in the car. She does. Takes her home.
We can hear you.
But before Kelly can get out of the car, she has to promise Jason that she will never break up with him. He says, "Sweetie, you know I love you. I would never hurt you. Please don't break up with me. If you break up with me, I go crazy. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd kill myself." Don't say that, Jason. Let's just talk about it tomorrow. Kelly goes inside of her house, takes a shower and gets ready for bed. And as she's setting her alarm on her cell phone for the next morning, she already has 10 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and 5 texts. All from Jason, who's trying to phone her. Now, what we saw right there was a very quick example of what's called the cycle of violence. And it's a cycle that literally occurs in every abusive relationship. I mean, does abuse start off on the first date? No. If we were on our first date eating lunch and we were to get slapped in the face, would we ever go on a second date? No. But that's because all of our relationships, they all start off with what's called the honeymoon phase. What does the honeymoon phase mean in a relationship? What does it mean, Asia Blue? You look like you're smiling. What does that mean? Describe what that honeymoon phase is right in the beginning of a relationship.
When you're really happy, you're like, all adorable.
Oh yeah. Things are good, right? You're holding hands, you're kissing, you're hugging, you're going to movies that you don't even like, right? But if there's abuse in that relationship, at some point it'll move into what's called the tension building phase. Now this is a little bit more difficult. This is where one or both people in the relationship feel like they're walking on eggshells. What does that metaphor mean? If you feel like you're walking on eggshells in your own relationship, what does that mean? Yes, sir?
Be very careful about your actions to not incite the other.
Exactly. You're afraid to say or do anything in fear of making that other person mad. It's like when Kelly got in the car. She knew Jason was drinking, but she didn't want to fight. She didn't want to argue. But at some point, that tension will build and build and build until it goes into the explosion phase. And that can be one of any 5 types of abuse. Yeah, it could be something physical, like a push or a slap. More commonly, it could be something verbal. It could be somebody who goes up to the wall, punches the wall, and says, I wish that was your face, because you would learn if that was your face. I didn't hit that person physically, did I? But I'm causing that same fear and intimidation, a form of emotional abuse. Until the abuser realizes that they made a mistake, and he goes into the I'm sorry phase. I'm so sorry, I will never do this again. Please forgive me, you know I love you. And then in order to make up for what they've done, it'll move back into what phase? The honeymoon phase. Can the honeymoon phase last for a long time in a relationship? Definitely. It could last for months. It may last for a few weeks, and we know some couples out there where it only lasts a few hours.
Yeah.
But that cycle will always repeat itself in an unhealthy relationship. But when I think of abuse, I tend to think of the male abusing the female. But can a woman be abusive to a man?
Yeah.
Definitely, all 5 ways. In fact, the state of California, we're one of the few states that recognize same-sex couples as being victims of domestic violence. Some states don't. But Human Options, where I work, we have a domestic violence hotline that services all of Orange County. And last year alone, we received over 14,000 phone calls from people who were looking for help. That's a lot of phone calls. But 95% of those phone calls came from female victims. Does that mean that only 5% of men are victimized? No. It's just that 5% called. Because most guys that I know, we have this really annoying thing inside of us. It's called an ego or pride. So let's say I got in a big argument with my girlfriend because I haven't been taking out the trash or doing the dishes. So my girlfriend goes into the most dangerous room in the household, which is the kitchen. She opens up the freezer, she grabs some frozen peas, and she chucks them at my head. Is my first instinct to go and call 911? No. I mean, what's that phone call like? Hey, 911, yeah, 6'2", 190 pounds. And my girlfriend's 4'11", 88 pounds. She just threw some frozen peas at me. Can you come to us? We don't do that, right? Because many of us, both men and women, we allow that tension to build and build and build until what inevitably will happen. But every time I do my presentation, I always have my name and contact information up on the board in case people want to ask me questions afterwards. Because honestly, this is a very personal topic. And I was doing this presentation in a very affluent area of Orange County. And in the middle of my presentation, this young lady, she raised her hand. She said, excuse me, are you Mexican? I had no idea what that had to do with the presentation. I'm not going to last name like Diaz. Very good. She goes, oh, okay, never mind. Now I know why you do this kind of stuff. I said, why? Why do Mexicans have a huge issue with domestic violence? It's that whole macho thing. I was shocked that she said that. I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. Latinos do have a huge issue with domestic violence. And so do African Americans, Asians, Caucasians, Catholics, Christians, Muslims. It can happen to anyone. But remember, when I think of domestic violence, I think of the show Cops. And in what cities do they film the show Cops? Can you give me a sample city? LA. Yeah, Long Beach, Compton, Inglewood, right? You never hear like Cops or what?
my
I
God.
have never seen that show. Because the media makes it seem like it only happens to those people over there. It would never happen over here. Have any of you ever been to the city of Irvine? You ever been there? It's a very planned community. Have you noticed that? And I don't know if you all know this, but the city of Irvine is statistically considered the safest city in America. Safest city in America. It's won 5 years in a row. From 2006 to 2009, the city of Irvine had a total of 7 murders. And that's not a lot of murders for such a large city. But every single murder during that time frame had to deal with what? Domestic violence. UC Irvine, one of the top universities in the state, has had 2 murders in the last 3 years. Both related to domestic violence. Because it can happen anywhere. Now, murder is just an extreme form of physical abuse. And I already told you that physical is not the most common. So what is the most common type of abuse in relationships that we literally see every single day? Verbal. It's just the words that people say. And we've all said some really mean and hurtful things. There are 3 main words that are used to classify women in a negative tone, and that is bitch, whore, and slut. Those 3 words are pretty common nowadays, aren't they? They don't even censor them in TV shows anymore. Have you noticed that? Especially. Exactly. Right? It used to be censored. Now it doesn't. Right? But especially in reality shows. There is one reality show out there that I absolutely love for what I do. That's the Jersey Shore. That the girlfriends, don't they call their girlfriends those 3 words over and over again? Yeah. But what do the young women call the other young women when they're mad at each other? The exact same words. Because most of you all were taught a lie when you were young. I don't know if you remember this lie. It was around kindergarten or 1st grade. Your teacher used to say this with you. Your teacher used to say, sticks and stones may break my bones. Oh, words will never.
That's a lie.
I like that phrase. Because you're taught, okay, when somebody says something mean to you, just brush it off. Don't let it bother you. But when it's somebody that you love and care about that says these hurtful things,